We're good? Okay. So are there any public comments on non-agenda items? Any public comments on non-agenda items? I don't see any online, and I don't see any in the audience. So moving right along, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from July 15th.
Motion to approve minutes from July 15th, 2025.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, minutes passed 3-0. Any comments by either selectman this evening? No? Okay. For a selectman report and correspondence, the only thing I have is I just want to let you know I did meet with Preston and the people that were proposing the sports bubble. We met in Preston. After they left us, they went and met in Griswold. Again, there's going to be no cost to any of the municipalities on the building of this if it ever gets built. But they are looking at now lopping off a certain number of hours. Let's say they're open 7 days a week from 6 in the morning until 10 at night. They're looking at taking a percentage of those hours and using for municipalities. So they might say like, okay, we're going to use 40% of all our hours, but we want the municipalities to do all the scheduling. So they, so if say there's 8 towns involved that could use this at different levels, we would handle that. So we'd have a small committee of maybe us, Preston, and Valentine, whoever, and we would handle the scheduling. And by doing that, then we would also get additional discounts on using it. But if Norwich, Waterford, Stonington wanted to use, they would have to come through us to schedule their times. This is just talking. We're just chatting now. They would then take 60% of the hours and use it for private. So they could have memberships, they could have AAU teams, they could have companies like EB, Pfizer. So they're just, again, this in the talking stages of what would the municipalities like. They want to team with the municipalities, and they also, by teaming with us, gives them a better chance to go after grants when you have private plus government combined efforts. Again, there's no money in it as far as we don't have to pay any money for construction. But when it comes to usage, we always thought all towns would have to pay some sort of usage. So they're kind of trying to come up now. And again, we're looking at least 1.5 years before that thing ever gets built and it actually opens. And we're looking, what do the towns want? What would this look like if we give the municipalities a big portion of this sports bubble? So, and now I'm imagining after a certain amount of time, it might be 3 months, 6 months, and they'd say, the municipalities aren't using the 40%, so we're going to cut them back to 30% of the hours. Or, we say, we're getting so much demand, we can't have teams with kids practicing at 9 o'clock at night. We need more hours. And if they have them to give to us, then maybe we can go to 50% of the hours. So again, just the first stages of talking, and we did it, North Stonington combined with Preston in this meeting, just because the bubble's basically on the North Stonington Preston line. So it made sense rather than getting all the different towns involved. Although the developers have met with many of the towns on their own. Like I said, when they left our meeting, they went up to Griswold, and I got a call from the first selectman in Griswold saying what a wonderful meeting they had and how excited they are about this coming to fruition. So we'll see. But basically, the idea is they don't have the money themselves. Like a lot of times developers rely on money invested. So you have to go through banks or investors. The more they can show that there's, if they build it, they will come scenario, the more chance it is of getting built. No one's going to invest in it if it looks like it's going to fail. So that's where we are with that. Again, it was a first meeting. We're going to try to do monthly meetings. Next one will be sometime towards the end of September. And just to stay abreast of what's going on. And I want to get input from both you two, but also other towns and see what they're thinking as far as our time.
So aside from the meetings where we're kind of like exploring what it might look like, what is the next step for them? They have to get investors, right? And then they have to present to P&Z or no?
Well, before they build, yes, that's another whole part of it.
Yeah.
So before they even build, they're going to have to go to P&Z and say, this is what we want to build. And does it work within the guidelines of North Stonington planning and zoning? There's no special, we're not doing it in special part of what I'm saying. They're going to abide by all the rules that any other builder would, any other developer would. So whatever P and Z says, this is the rules, this is the zoning, that's what you're gonna have to conform to, that's what they have to conform to.
And in the conversations, and I understand that the more interest they build up with towns and things like what they're offering, that looks better to investors, but like we would get clearly all of that in writing
Oh, yeah,
down the
and we would
line
not-
as far
there'd be
as what it would
nothing-
look like.
Exactly, and there'd be nothing that would go back to a municipality as far as some sort of a penalty. It wouldn't say, I would never sign it. I don't think Preston would or anyone else would saying, if you don't use the hours committed, we're gonna charge you back.
Yeah.
No,
So if we, as in the town of North Stonington and Preston, were managing, or just the town of North Stonington, because it's technically, would it be 100% in our town?
it's 100% in our town.
It's
So as
100
far as any taxes, we would collect all the taxes.
Okay. So there would never be any, or we gave you 40% of our time, you can't now rent it out or lease it out,
No,
and now you guys need to fork over.
no, even though it's municipality time, we could then turn around and like almost release it to somebody else.
Okay.
You know, no. And again, this is the early stages. I don't think our town should commit to anything that costs us any money other
Yeah.
than usage. If we're gonna use it, we have to pay to use
Yeah.
it. And that what level we pay that's still to be determined on what we do with, what we do as far as, do we have anybody part of this committee that books the hours? Is there a pay to that person for doing that? Farther on, you'll see we're having a discussion on recreation commission and senior center. I really wasn't going to have that discussion until maybe later in the fall, but I wanted to make sure that I got Brett's input on it for November to see, because I think that something we just started talking about a while back on what does the rec look like going forward and what does social service look like going forward. I'd like to get input from this administration before it changes. So, but we'll get to it in a minute. But I just want to give you that information about the sports bowl meeting. And again, as it goes, I'll make sure I keep you informed. And you're also welcome to attend it. The next meeting, I think, is at the end of September. I can give you the dates. It's going to be in the Preston conference room at their town hall. You're always welcome to attend it. Okay.
I just would be, my initial response would be, I'd be really concerned about a public-private partnership in that group, because it's already changed since that presentation to us when they came here and said, nope, it's all on them. The only commitment they were looking for is for us, for the municipalities to commit an amount of time. So our schools to say, hey, we would use 50 hours every 2 weeks, whatever it would be. That they were looking for that because, like I said, this particular group looking to build in other locations throughout the country always went to the municipality, asked the municipality to help with the bonding, and they were clear during the presentation here they wouldn't be looking for us to help with any funding or getting our name out there to help with that funding. So I would be very cautious as you go into these conversations that we don't give an ear that we're looking to do that, because I do think it sounds great on the surface of us helping scheduling that, but I've seen what other entities that schedule these activities go through, and it's not as easy as it sounds, because there's so many different groups trying to schedule, and it's really a job. So I'd be cautious about a committee helping to do that when it's not our entity.
And I don't disagree. And again, it was an idea they floated, but I would be, every time I turn around, I say, don't forget, we are not funding this. We're not funding this. So this town, there's no reason why this town should fund this in any way other than our usage. If it comes down to they schedule everything and each town does their own, asks their own time, that's fine too.
Right.
I think that it helps them on the surface to look like they have some time with municipalities, obviously makes them look better, right?
Right. And I have no problem helping support them, but stating that we're a public-private entity, I would be really cautious with that.
I agree. And I'll be honest with you, Sandra is involved and she feels the same way you do.
Oh,
So,
perfect.
okay.
But thanks for the update. It's exciting opportunity for us if it plays out well.
Yeah. I mean, it may not, there's not a great track record here of in the past, right? So, all right. So with that said, Avalonia support letter. So let me just tell you what this is. I should tell you what it isn't. We know that it was a few months ago that we were talked to by Bill Ricker, I believe it was, in conservation, that was money in the open space, funds in the open space account, as far as we have 77,000. Could we put some of that money towards the buying of this land? That is not what this letter is for. All this is the Avalonia reached out to me, Dennis Main, who's the president, and said, we're going for a grant. The fact that you're a distressed municipality, you were in 2022, you're on that list for 5 years. We can get an extra 10% of a grant if I get a support letter from the selectmen saying you support it. So basically, this would be like me selling my usually 4.5 acres to somebody or giving it to somebody with my passing, who was in my will. I know Nita Kincaid, who sat there for 4 years, always said someday when she passed, she wanted her land to go to Avalonia. To me, that's a private deal, and I don't have any problem supporting it. If the second question comes up a month from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now, will the town give us money towards the purchasing? That's a whole different question. That has to go in front of us, and then if it gets through us, it has to go to the town for a town vote at a town meeting. So again, I just want to make sure you know this wasn't this. All he's looking for is that extra 10% of a grant by us supporting their ability to buy the property from Nita's husband, Gary, and that's all this is. So if there's any questions on this?
No, so I'll make a motion to approve Bob's sending this letter in support of Avalonia's grant application.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any questions? Understand what we're saying? Any questions online? No? Okay. And then the other question comes up, we'll deal with that at that time. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 3-0, and I'll do is I'll send this to Avalonia tomorrow. Thank you. Next, so Recreation Commission and Senior Center discussion. The Senior Center discussion, right? So we know that Senior Services, we know that Teresa is going to be retiring, and I thought it was November, and then it was February, and now I think it's March. And it's something to do with her retirement and whatever her plans are, which is fine. I did talk to her. There's two parts to the senior center. There's the agent of the elderly, which handles all the insurances and discounts on like electricity and oil, and basically answers a lot of questions from people that just don't know. And as you and Brett get closer to that age, which you're nowhere near it yet, but when you do, you'll start getting letters on Medicare, Medicaid, and it's so confusing. Even Social Security is confusing. So agent by state statute, every town has to have an agent for the elderly, which we do. It's Teresa, and she gets a stipend for that. She also is the director of the senior center, which is what she wants to retire from. She said she would consider staying on as the agent for the elderly because she knows so much about it. But I think she's tired of the other piece, which is doing the events, doing the meals, getting people together, running the things that she runs in the senior center, helping out, driving the people with food, driving the people and help them move their firewood and shovel their driveways and other things she does that people don't know about. So I was thinking, we talked about social services when the giving closet came up during the budget. We also talked to Mrs. Costanza a bit with the food pantry. And I wanted to start a discussion, maybe, tonight, and something we can carry on for the next few months on what social services might look like. One piece the reason I combined rec with this, one piece I want you to consider is I was thinking of, would it make sense to take the social part, the going to the theater, going to the restaurants, doing that, take that away from senior center and make that as part of the Recreation Commission. So my sister-in-law, she's retired now, but she did this in East Greenwich. Their senior social events and their rec commission was all run with the rec. So they had one person handle all the youth, one person handle all the seniors, and then sometimes they would do combined events where seniors and youth would get together to do bus trips and so on, which the seniors kind of got a kick out of it, and so did some of the youngsters when they did it. So I just think that that part of the senior, what we offer through the seniors could be well done. It was handled by the right by the rec commission. I gave you the sheet, and what I'd like to do with it is, if it's okay, I don't have to discuss a lot of this evening, but the sheet that's in your packet. So my ideas I had, I'd love to have the two of you go back and write down what your ideas might be. To give you an idea what my vision would be for rec, and it could be all wrong, it could be totally in left field. But I'd like to do a regional rec commission with us, Preston and Volantown, instead of North Stonington Rec. And I'd like to do, the reason I'd like to do that is right off the bat, we're picking up 2 more gyms. Volantown has a gym, Preston has a gym. We're picking up 3 more sports fields. 2 there's one at the school, but there's also Preston owns probably the nicest outside facility. It's in, I don't know how to say that. Pontiac, 2A and 117.
Yeah, that's where they're having their big carnival this week.
Where a hot sun, yeah, Pontiac. I don't know, it's like wickety quack, like what the heck's that, but Pontiac, I think it's cool. But anyway, they have a beautiful outdoor track, sports facility, they have a pavilion. So by having a regional rec commission, that could do a couple of things. We could do things regionally. So if we want to do regional basketball, so we're not sending kids all the way to Groton, we'd have enough gyms to do it that way. If we want to do regional soccer between the 3 towns, we could do that because there's plenty of fields. And we could have a regional rec commission. So I would say we'd have a rec director, probably a full-time rec director, and then we'd have a commission made up of some members, again, appointed by the selectmen, maybe 2 or 3 members from North Stonington, 2 or 3 from Preston, 2 or 3 from Volantown, that makes up a rec commission. Again, appointed by the Board of Selectmen. And then, again, we could do things, so let's say North Stonington wants to do a program and they can't get enough people. There may be people from Preston would like to do it, whether it be an art class or whatever it happens to be, yoga class. Maybe we have enough people around in town we can run our own yoga class or art class without offering it to the other towns. But give us a way to do things regionally, but also within our own town. If we did it that way, now working as one unit, and say we had a full-time rec director, each town would pay a portion of that pay. So no one's picking up that pay all by himself. So we would pay a portion, Volantown, Preston, and so on. So again, just a thought of, and maybe under the director, we have 2 part-time people. One handles the youth, one handles the seniors when it comes to recreation. Again, just a thought. The positives, I think we pick up gyms, we pick up field space, and we're not driving all the way to Groton, Connecticut to have kids play basketball. And then as far as the social services, again, we have a senior center coordinator, an agent for the elderly. Remove the recreation piece and bring it to recreation. And again, this is, and possibly inclusion of the food pantry and the giving closet in the social services department, or whatever we call it. So now it's almost like one-stop shopping. If someone comes in, they need food, they need clothing, they need advice. We go to one person that handles that. I think that was one of the issues we had in the budget was like we have a giving closet doing one thing, and we have Mrs. Costanza doing another thing, and we have the senior center doing another thing. It'd almost be like a mini Portland neighborhood center, but for our own town. And I don't want to regionalize that. I think we have enough of it in our own town to handle without going to other towns to regionalize it. So again, just my first thought of what we might want to do. Again, this could be totally different than what Brett and Nicole wants to do, but I'd love input. And if you're not ready for any discussion this evening, I'd like to get input maybe for our next meeting, that you come up with some ideas. And again, if it's totally different than this, that's fine. I just think we need to move forward because we said to the residents, we need to move forward on something with social services. We had people from the Board of Finance mention it. Other people mentioned it during the budget season. And I've been thinking about the rec for quite a while, thinking we could have a much better regional rec department than a single town rec department. Thoughts?
I have a few.
I'm glad you do.
And, I've been involved with going to the rec meetings for years and looking at rec. So I do like the regional approach. I do think we need to somewhat overhaul how we're doing stuff on the rec side of it. And talking to some of the other rec directors in the other towns, I think that would be a nice option. But I also look at it, if we weren't to do that, I would be, and I've talked about this part for years, of combining rec and the senior center together. So Stonington does that. It's all under human services. It's social services and the rec all under one umbrella. If we didn't go in the regional route for the rec, I would say we should look at that for cost savings and having the right amount of staff And when I say cost savings is if we're starting a whole department of social services on its own, that's a different discussion. And I think we need to really do a cost analysis on that to see what starting that department would look like with the level of staff that you put in here. But in doing that, I would say, look at the rec, combining them together if we didn't go in the regional route. And then when you mentioned that you wouldn't be in favor of doing social services with another town, why is that? If we can have a more robust program, if we're doing regional recreation, why would it be so bad to do regional social services?
I think it could, so we've been doing local rec for a number of years. We know what that is. We've never really done local social services to this extent, and I don't know how much need there is in North Stonington. I don't know how much of a call there is for it. So if it's, I would hate to have us have such a need, and now it's regionalized, and now people don't feel like they're getting taken care of. So, I mean, I'm not thinking that we couldn't regionalize it, maybe eventually, or maybe even the beginning, but I just think not knowing what that need is, because we have people go one place for food, one place for clothes, one place for this, one place for that. It's not all under one roof. So,
Right. And we fund a lot of nonprofits that do other things that our groups in town don't do. And I guess that would be more of an analysis we'd have to try to come up with at some point, is how much social service is needed in town to say we're going to have a whole department for it. Because I do think if you look at the baseline of what we said the Giving Closet does or the food pantry, I think once you bring that into a municipally funded program, there's a lot more restrictions in place compared to just having everyone come in to do those things. I think once you go down that path, that's when you have to go into application forms and all that, and verify information, verify incomes, all those different things that aren't happening now. So when we look at the need, we think it's ginormous. We know there's a need, but I think the big need that came out during Giving Closet would not necessarily streamline into a set social services program. So I don't know how we do that analysis. I would think Ms. Costanza is one place to start. After her doing it for so long in our community, she might have a baseline of what it looks like on a maybe a smaller scale, and then as you loosen those parameters up with the Giving Closet and things like that, look at it. But I wouldn't put that on the off table of regionalization of that, because we might be able to provide so much more services if we do regionalize that, just like you're looking at the rec. But I like the idea where we're headed. And now is the time to look at that with someone leaving. And that's sometimes we miss the boat on those opportunities, and now is the time, but it's going to take us some time. So I think if we can start looking at those things, looking at the cost of what really a social service department in a small community would really.
Would it make sense to have Mrs. Costanza come to a future meeting? If we don't have one in August, maybe the first one in September, just to tell this is what do you think? And she's obviously the local expert on how this all works.
I would love to have her.
I have not spoken, except in passing. We have not really spoken about this. I have not really spoken to Giving Closet at all. I did speak to the rec director about, I'm going to present. I didn't want to present this tonight and have him say, you didn't tell me this. So I did talk about, I was thinking of doing a regionalized sport, and that was probably a good idea. So, so yeah, I think that having Mrs. Costanza come in might be a good next step to give us an overview of what it looks like. And I'd also like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to invite in some night, if she's willing to come, is the first Selectwoman of Griswold, Tina Falk. And the reason I'd like to have her come in is she ran all the social services in Griswold, and that includes Jewett City. So they just built a $2 million building over there, as you probably know. Right. They have veterans breakfasts there every Wednesday, and it's quite the thing. But she was, before they had any of that, she was on the ground running this as a director for a number of years. And one of the biggest negatives about her becoming the first select woman was that she had to give that up. And she hated giving that up because she's got a passion for it. And I wonder if she might, if it's okay with you, if I invited her to a meeting sometime to just give us some input. Mrs. Costanza first, but then after that, maybe if Tina wouldn't mind coming in.
Yeah, that'd be great. Now, did you talk to the other towns about the rec side idea in your group meeting?
it came up in the meeting with the bubble, because I was sitting right next to the
Okay.
Preston, and he thought it was a wonderful idea. Right now, what Preston's doing with Valentine really doesn't have a rec department.
Right.
But the young man, Mark Simmons, who's the rec director in Preston, lives in Valentine. So he's free trying to develop a rec commission, a rec department in Valentine without getting paid for it, just because he feels bad they don't have anything. And he handles in Preston, he does handle the senior center. Matter of fact, the day that he was here for the open house about the bubble conversation, he had 10 seniors on a boat in Essex, going on a boat in a railroad, the combination railroad boat ride on the Connecticut River. He had seniors doing that day that he had booked. So he's got some background on that. And if we ever went in this direction, I mean, he'd be the obvious choice to probably be the director, but again, that's a conversation down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I actually talked to him today, helping him. Yeah, we're working. He started their first year carnival in Preston, like a old school carnival, rides, fireworks at the end. So I'm working with him on some donated trash services, but that's beside the point. But his vision is pretty great. We didn't talk about this regionalization other than you mentioned it at the presentation when he was there too, but he's looking to grow what their offerings are in Preston, and it seems like he's doing a great job at it. So I admire that ambition to try to solve some of these issues over the next, a year? I don't know.
So I think we have until April of next year to at least get this handle in social services. We're not as big a crunch with rec, but I think we may as well just do it together, right? Why not talk about both departments at one time? And then I wanted to do it again. I was going to start talking about this more in September, October. I wanted to move it up because of what's happening with our administration, with the change coming.
And I think a solid transition plan would be great. So if you have it ready for there, and if for some reason, like I said, that regional rec program isn't what washes out of this discussion, I think it's silly not to have it at the same time with the social services and think about that. So it'd be silly just to do social services now and then worry about rec later.
I don't agree. I think there's a natural tie-in. And if rec did go regional, that doesn't mean we can't take that piece from social services and move that into rec, at least, the fun side.
Yeah. And I love I didn't even think about the facilities aspect of it. I think that's a great bonus.
Yeah, we just went from we'll call 1.5 gyms to 3.5 gyms. So it makes, and with the amount of kids that we have play, if you only play, you might be playing in Preston that day, you might play in Valentine, but none of those are a long ride compared to every Saturday morning in Groton.
And I think that point, bringing up Groton, I think these towns blend well with us. I know there was some pushback on us doing the basketball programs with Groton, and there's plenty of kids that didn't sign up for that reason. Just they didn't want to transport them all the way to Groton. But it was a more competitive league, which some people love, right? So you want your kids to be ready to play at higher levels, but it did exclude some other rec, because rec is about giving kids the opportunity to try a sport and play. It's not a travel team. It doesn't need to be super competitive. It's about kids exploring different programs.
When I did rec, we wanted everybody to play.
Right.
And if you wanted something more competitive, then there's AAU for that, right? You can pay and go play on a team with all superstars if you want. But it was important for like us. We would say even in basketball, whoever starts the first quarter can't play in the second quarter. So that means you got to put 5 new kids in to play the second quarter. So everyone's getting some playing time.
That's why.
And the people who had the really superstar kids didn't like that because they wanted the kid to be on the court all the time. But they said, this is rec. Go to AAU. This is what rec should be open to everybody. So anyway, and I agree, but I think Preston and Valentine, they already go to our high school. They're the ones. They're very similar towns.
Yeah.
It could all easily have been all one town with a regional school system years ago, but it never happened. All right, so that's thoughts on any of this?
Yes.
Oh, good.
It's just waiting my turn. So at first I kind of thought that I would get a little bit nervous with the regionalization, that we would lose the ability to really spotlight and take care of our kids and our seniors. But I think that I can see how it can be done well. One of the questions that I have is the money that we already have built into our budget for places like the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center, where I think that a lot of our residents are using services there. And what would that mean? Would we can't stop our residents from going to Pawcatuck, but we're going to need to fund something larger and on a bigger scale here at home. And how does that affect what we're currently already dedicating? Like, these organizations have counted on the same, if not a little tiny bit more every single year from us, because it's all our residents have. So I think we just need to be thoughtful about how much we're paying other outside social services. And I think that there would be a period of time where our residents didn't really know, like, we're going to have to really advertise and get this word out. They're still going to seek out some of those services. So I think we need to be thoughtful about the amount of money that it would take to regionalize or explore expanding what we have in town, whether that's with Preston. And one of the other question that I had was, do Preston and Voluntown have interest in regionalizing with us? So it sounds like at least one of them would.
Well, since Voluntown doesn't exist basically, and the guy from Preston is doing both towns, and he would. So on the rec side, I think we'd have no problem at all. I don't know what the social services side would look like. And again, one thing that makes me nervous about going right to a regionalization, and that is we don't know how many people that need us that we don't really need us. Even with Pawcatuck, I think people go there, but there's a lot of people that either don't drive, they're nervous, they don't want to be seen, they just like to call Mrs. Costanza and she'll drop off, food and nobody knows it. Maybe that's something with the given closet happens and nobody knows it. When we had Pawcatuck neighborhood in the town hall, we gave them a spot in town hall to come every 2 Tuesdays a month. When we came in, again, people were afraid they didn't want to be seen.
Yeah.
Because why are you talking about the neighborhood, and then we put them at the library in a back, kind of a back area. Once again, very few people came in. So I think it's a very private thing when you're asking for help. And I don't know if regionalization would cut that down versus people feel so comfortable with Linda. I think they feel comfortable with Sarah. They feel comfortable with Teresa. And those might not always be the same people either.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a work in progress, Nicole. I agree with you. It's how much money is it going to cost? But then again, right now our town is in a fairly good shape fiscally because we have been, for the last 4 years, we have not spent money unless we needed to. We haven't bought a lot of nice to have, we bought need to haves. And we've been fiscally responsible. We're passing budgets because we're not spending money frivolously. This is, to me, a good social services department is a need to have. It would be doing a disservice to our elderly if we didn't. So I think it's, even if we're talking now about the Board of Finance, they're talking about money to pay off debt, whether it be short-term or long-term. I think that's a great idea because it helps the current taxpayer. But I think the Board of Finance would also say, if we needed a startup fund, $12,000 or whatever, we should be able to say, yeah, this is a worthy cause. I mean, we give money to people coming in, whether it be ambulance, fire, and other things, because it's a worthy cause. What's more worthy than taking care of the seniors? So, just my opinion.
Yeah, and I think, well, twofold, having it regionalized on the flip side might get more people to utilize it because it's not so small town where they're in just the community and they feel like everybody knows they're walking in there. So I don't know, that could be the difference, but I agree with you 100%. Just because we were to do something like this doesn't mean we can't fund the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center or the Franco Lean or any of the other ones that you're not going to get out of a social services group. Like there's the specialty groups that we fund now, and it might be only $500 or, I mean, Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center's our largest one, I think. But I don't think you can stop funding those. You might be able to make it a little smaller, the amount we give them, but I don't think a social services department would be able to encompass all those different groups that are needed within a community.
Again, they're so specialized. I mean,
but they could direct though, right? They could direct them to those groups, I think, too.
And I think that'd be a big part of it is that if we had our social services group and how the contact works with all the other things that people don't know exist. I think there's people in this town that don't know they've never heard of Always Home, Safe Futures, any of those things. It'd be a place to go and say, I got a problem, where do I go? And now you have a place to say, either we keep you right here, or we can send you, you can go here. I think it'd make our town, as wonderful it is, much more wonderful if we had something really good for senior citizens.
Yeah. I think at the very least, I am in favor in exploring something like Stonington has, which is Stonington's Human Services, Department of Human Services. So I like the idea of combining rec and senior, but with the right structure underneath it, clearly. Teresa is full-time. Is she a full 40 hour?
No, she's a part-time.
Part-time,
Well,
she just does 25 hours?
She charges us for part-time,
Wow.
but I'll tell you what, we don't get charged when she's out moving firewood.
Yeah,
and
so
shoveling
I mean,
driveways.
that's something we definitely have to take into consideration, because you might not get somebody who's willing to pay for just a 25-hour salary, but do 40 hours. So we're going to need to definitely work with Teresa to understand what she's currently doing and what it takes. And then rec is clearly part-time, correct?
It is
Same.
part-time now, but if it was regionalized, it would probably need a full-time director to do a regional rec department.
Oh, totally. I'm just kind of exploring what if we just stayed within the town, but combined into one human services
Right.
and had a director over both, and then assistant directors for, like you laid out here, assistant director for youth, assistant director for senior. And then it sounds like Teresa is wanting to continue as the agent for the elderly. And that would just roll into a Department of Human Services.
So I think these are the discussions I wanted to have
Yep.
now, early stages, and because I don't know what's going to work best, but I think we can get there, or get something close, and then tweak it as the next few years go by. But I guess my concern is, does someone know enough about putting on a Wednesday afternoon dinner for the seniors and also run a basketball league? So I don't know how.
Well, I mean, I think that you have to definitely, because you're going to get somebody who has a passion to work with either elderly or children. I mean, they're very different, that skill set. So you would almost need to have one of each.
I think if we had a regional rec and took the senior center piece and put it in there, it's okay. If you want to have fun, you're going to go here. If you do need us to help you, you're going to go here. So I just, talking to Mark and how he's done it in Preston, and how my sister-in-law used to do it in East Greenwich, and apparently they do it in Stonington. People have figured this out, how to combine them both. And I think it's just tapping in. You never have to invent something new. You always see who does it best and then take those ideas.
Yeah.
I think it would be great to have Teresa come talk with us.
So we can have a few people. If I
As
had
well.
Lucas Costanza, Teresa, I'd like to get, again, a woman as well, because she's done it. And if I can find somebody from Stonington to come in, or if you know someone from Stonington, maybe they could talk to us also.
I almost would consider a short-lived work group that could explore this. It's a lot to take in. I think that really understanding the use of the current senior center. I think we have I personally feel like I have a much better handle on the use of our rec center than I do with the senior center. I'd love to have some key people, like an appointed work group, kind of just exploring this.
Maybe a work group would make sense if we did something like we did on the, when we had that 6-month group, we put a date on it. It was for the tax
For the
relief group.
tax relief,
And
yeah.
we said 6 months and
Yep.
we're done.
Yep.
It might be something tough to handle by the Board of Selectmen on a 1 or 2 nights a month.
Yeah.
But if you had a group working on it weekly or bi-weekly and, in work groups, it would make sense. And maybe you would have some of those people we just talked about as possibly speakers helping us out. I know when the government structure committee was looking to add the position of admin and finance officer, they had a woman from the town was Berlin or something, and we had people from other towns that had these positions come in and be part of an advisory group. So we can, maybe I can get somebody from
It's
other
just-
towns.
yeah,
and
it's just
some
an
of our own
idea.
people. Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea. I think we've seen some of those groups not succeed in the past when we looked at the fire EMS group and some other groups that we did give that to. I think the tax relief one was a success. So I'd be careful on how that works, but and who you have part of it, but it can work in the right circumstance. But we know we have a limited time, I think.
Yeah.
Is if we're looking at April to have a whole
Plan in
department
place.
So
fixed by.
why don't we concentrate a little bit separately? We know there could be a tie-in with rec and social services, but let's concentrate on social services because we know there's a deadline coming with that. And if we can tie rec in as it goes on, we could. But I would like maybe at our next meeting to talk about forming that committee, what it looks like, who we might want to invite to it, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So if you can just think about that and we can bring it to our next meeting.
Yeah. And I just think a formal meeting with Preston and Voluntown too would need to take place, just so that we know we have, it's kind of silly to pursue exploring regionalizing if we know. And I understand Voluntown doesn't really have anything right now. It sounds like Preston would be open, but just really what that would look like.
Yeah. And I think with the budgetary issues that both of those towns had over the past year or a few months ago, I think it's probably worthwhile for them to have some of these discussions. And we know that you'll be in the same place and Preston will be in the same place as far as first selectman. Voluntown will be different, but at least starting those conversations so we can gauge their buy-in to it would be helpful.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, before we get too far down the
I
road.
agree. So I think this is a good starting point, at least where it's on the table. And we can keep this on the agenda until we come up to a conclusion.
Yeah, I think we should.
All right, any other discussion? on this,
No, I
Christine?
appreciate you bringing this forward.
Yeah.
Though. Thanks, Bob.
Oh, you're welcome.
And the timeliness of it, I think it gives us a good several months to really kind of think about what it looks like.
It goes by fast, I'll tell you.
It
Oh my
will go
God.
by fast.
Okay, so we'll kind of just table that, put it on the next agenda, and we'll talk about the possible formation of maybe a 6-month work group, or subcommittee, or whatever you want to call it. Okay. Okay. Are there anybody want to give me any input on any of that while I'm here before we switch subjects? Anybody in the audience? Lynn, Bill, John? No? Okay. Anybody online want to make a statement or give us any input on what we just spoke about for the last 20 minutes? Okay. Next, social media policy. All right, so I spent a lot of time with this today because we have 3 different things. We have the policy I did a couple of weeks ago, which was in direct response to the issue that happened about a month ago. And then we pulled out the policy that was done when Mike was the first selectman. And then I have the code of ethics. Going through these in great depth today. I wrote the code of ethics and I had to renew my memory because I did in 2021. But there is one thing in the code of ethics. I highlighted it. Let me just bring it up. It says, not that this can't be changed. But, complaints of violation of the code of ethics must relate to financial gain or financial interest, which are not in the best interest of the town. Everything in this code of ethics goes with financial. Goes with taking money, giving favors, contracts to friends, all that kind of stuff is in the code of ethics. And at the time when this was written, was a reaction to something that might have been happening in town. So that's why this came in. If you notice, it's never been brought up much in the last 4 or 5 years. I think people are very comfortable with this administration and our ethics when it comes to this kind of thing. So then I went to the social media piece that was written in 2021 also. And I had nothing to do with writing this. I think this was, again, a reaction to some of the things that were happening in our online meetings. Some things you would want to happen on online meetings, whether it be vulgarity, drinking of alcohol. I mean, at the time, Zoom was over into us, and we really didn't know how to handle a Zoom meeting. Can we be in my pajamas? Can we be on the table? Can people walk by me when I meet? The kids screaming behind me. We really didn't know because we had to learn how to act on social media as far as a virtual meeting. And so because of those some issues, Mike felt the need to write this. And we also at the time started a social media page. Everything in this policy that I sent you, every line says town social media sites, town social media sites. So this whole thing is geared towards, and we have total control of ours. I'll tell you how ours works. So we have a social media site that the town uses for our own information. We also can post on the town social media site that goes out to Facebook. There are two different sites. Suzanne handles the town website. She handles the town website itself. Jan handles the social media site, which is Instagram and Facebook. Nothing goes on that unless it comes from me or Suzanne. Some towns, they allow their commissions to put things on. So let's say the Conservation Commission is running an event, they could put it on the town social media site. If the Economic Development Commission was running an event, we could advertise on that. Nothing goes on there unless it goes through me. So I don't have the fear that someone's going to go in there and say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, post the wrong thing, because we've got it pretty clamped down where some of the other towns didn't, and that's why their social media policies are all geared towards their own site, and this is all geared towards the town social media site. When I wrote the one I wrote, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Which one? Because so right
The
after,
3-page one is the one that was done by Mike in 2021.
So the only thing with that one is we don't enforce this now.
As far as what?
So when this was done, there were already some sites that were started, and then there's sites that there's pages that started after this policy was implemented, but we're not following it. So
What
that
example?
means,
Give me an example.
so the Rec Commission, EDC, so this is to cover any municipal Facebook social media page. You guys are referring to the official Town of North Stonington one, but this is supposed to encompass all social media pages related to a town committee
You are
or
correct.
official. So as we go through this process, we have to start saying to ourselves, are we going to have policies that we enforce and we make sure we're running correctly as we add new rules and new things on? Because we have policies that we don't enforce right now that we probably should start if we're adding these
So
things.
this policy, and shame on me for not really understanding it, or it was done during my time as a selectman. This is the 3-page. This is town of social media policy. This one right here doesn't have the town's seal on it or anything.
what does this belong to?
Which one's that one?
The one, this is stapled right before.
That's the proposed one from the last meeting.
Oh, thank
This
you.
one?
Okay.
This
Yeah.
one?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Thank
that's
you.
what it was.
Okay.
That was Bob.
So
All right.
I agree with you, Brett, and I'll be honest with you, I was remiss, because you're right, Rec has their own, EDC used to have their own.
They still have it, but
They used it.
they don't use it. You're right.
Who else uses it besides Rec?
There's Rec. I think is there a not historic society, conservation? I think there's some other ones, but I know the 3 main ones were the town, the economic development, and the Rec ones. But I think there might be a few other ones outlying from some
So
commissions.
I'll have to research that. I think you're right about Rec, and I'll be honest with you, I don't remember Rec ever posting something that made anybody upset. I could be wrong.
No, and I don't think they have. I'm just saying we should make that the standard if we have this policy that we,
Well,
It's all
if we re-adopt this one, I have no problem giving it to Rec and give it to Tom, say, you have to adopt this. You have to understand we're doing this. The one I came up with is, again, something different. It's when a town official, an elected official, appointed official, or an employee goes on another site, say, they're still unfiltered, or a town group, and they say to do something that's not in the best interest of the town, or something you wouldn't want someone associated with the town to be doing. There's 2 things on here I wanted to take off, because you made a point last time, Brett. Number 3, religious statements. There's no need for that to be on here, because you could be saying something about a holiday, Christmas, or some other. So my opinion would be to keep the code of ethics, keep the one we just said, and actually enforce it, the one that was done in 2021. But on the social media policy that I presented a few weeks ago, which was again in reaction to something that happened, I would take off number 3, and then the very last line, I don't know how to handle that, and I'm looking for advice from you too. Elected officials, although unable to be disciplined as described above, could be called out at a board of selectmen recorded meeting. That's like, okay.
What's that really
Yeah,
mean?
what does that mean?
Publicly shamed? Are we talking about
Publicly
publicly
shamed.
shamed?
Bring them up and put a poster, let them on TV. So there is no real punishment for an elected official. I don't know how to handle that piece of it because the incident happened was an elected official. So any input on how we, I mean, that's something you would be probably the best of the three of us to know.
Yeah, I just know the laws regarding this, and there's not much you can do to a public official. And really, I think, like I mentioned before, our town attorney should review this at some time, because I know, for instance, we've had issues where a teacher would post something that's not really great, right? Or comes out against the community, and there's doing research on it. There's nothing you can do to that teacher unless the only way that the school or a group can say, hey, this was bad, you have to, or be disciplined for it, is if they list themselves as a member of, so on their page, if it says Wheeler High School teacher, then the school can say something about it. But if they don't, then it's within their First Amendment rights to make comments that might not be fit the narrative of someone employed by the school or by the town. But as far as calling out,
I mean, that was just a throwaway line I put in there because I didn't,
right,
like, what do you do?
there's,
I mean, so let's say a board of finance member went on and said something, right? And they don't say, you know, John Doe, member of board of finance, and they say what they want. They're just, it's their own,
yeah,
they're representing themselves.
there's really nothing we can do, because we can't even say, as a board of select, we can't say to someone from the Economic Development Commission, you need to come to our meeting so we can talk to you. We have no authority to, of another elected official, to make them come to our meetings, to publicly address them unless they choose to. So I do agree. I think with town employees or anything like that, it's
appointed.
Or appointed.
You put in their file, appointed, correct. You can unappoint.
Because you can unappoint. But for an elected, it's, other than asking them not to, and for them to abide by this, there's nothing we can do penalty wise. But maybe it's just so far as to say, hey, this is our policy. We hope as an elected official you abide by it, right? And we, the Board of Selectmen, any other board, we talk about that in the beginning as new members are seated every year or every 2 years. We talk about this. Hey, this is our social media policy. I want to review it. There's nothing we can do to enforce it against you. But I think, I would hope that if we have that out there and we talk about it the way we do, that people would refrain from it. Now, you're going to get people that go off on a tangent and might not. But I think if we set that standard, that's the best we can do when it comes to something like this.
No, I agree. I think if you appeal to the people early on and say, this is what we expect of you, you're an elected official, we don't have the ability to reprimand you, but we would hope that this is how you would act. And you'd hope that people that we elect would fall in line to understand this, right?
Right.
I think that, and I'm not referencing what we should have done in the situation that happened, but I think depending on how egregious the act is, do we as a Board of Selectmen have the right to ask for the resignation of an elected official, or to ask them to step down willingly under the circumstances?
You can ask. They just don't
I
have
understand
to, right?
that we don't have anything to enforce it, but we would have the right to ask for somebody to step down under the circumstances. And again, I'm not specifically speaking of, I'm just trying to think of what recourse we have at all in the future.
Yeah, I think if we're dealing with someone that doesn't care and makes outrageous posts, something crazy, I don't think over that last post, I don't know if that rises to the extent where I would ask that person to step down, but I think in
No,
the
I
time that,
specifically said I
Yeah.
was not referencing
no, and I'm not
that
referencing
particular
you on how
person.
you
I'm
reference
just
that.
saying, how do we word this in
Yeah.
a policy?
But I think if we were to ask someone to step down that did something so outrageous, if they are willing to do something so to the level where we think they should ask them to step down, I can't see them being like, okay, we'll step down. What it could do is ramp it up tenfold, right? Say, hey, you think I'm going to step down? I'm going to double up.
Yeah, I mean, and it is a shame because I think of all of the town employee appointed, if anybody, people that are elected by the people have a responsibility. It is the elected official that you should be able to hold accountable. And unfortunately, clearly in our country, we don't have that right now.
And you
So-
can, but it's at the next election you can. You can't
Correct.
do it
And I
then.
remember you making that comment
Mhm.
that that is when you make a decision. It's just sad that we don't have anything that we can
So
do.
maybe the last sentence, I could eliminate the one I put in there as a throwaway sentence and just say something about elected officials will be, as upon election will be, I don't want to use the word trained, but made aware of our policy and asked to please try to
Yeah,
adhere to
I
it.
think that we'll be
So-
made aware of the policy and we ask that they abide by it. And there's nothing stopping us from saying when something happens for us to say that elected person does not represent the values that this board holds dear or something like that. But I like the idea of,
Yeah.
hey, we ask that you abide by this policy and just put it on them. So if they want to
Did we not? I distinctly remember getting my handbook.
You did, and I didn't sign it.
And you had to sign, and I am
You
a
didn't
rule
have to sign
follower,
it.
and I signed the back page and I handed it in to Christine. I specifically remember doing that.
As an elected official, you don't have to.
You don't
We
have
ask
to.
you to, but we've gone to Hartford, actually talked to Suzanne about this. We've gone to Hartford and get two different opinions. One says an elected official is an employee because the IRS considers an employee because they get a check. The other side in Hartford says, no, an elected official, even if they're getting paid, they're not
They're
an
not.
employee. they're an elected
The
official.
official standard is they're a municipal officer. So it's
basically,
different.
when
So
I-
I did, and I don't mind saying it, I refused to sign that employee handbook because I'm not a town employee and I'm not agreeing. So there were a few things in there I didn't like, but I'm like, I'm not signing that. And it was more about the point of not signing it. It was more about saying, look, because somebody thought we should be classified as town employees. And I'm like, we're not town employees. The state doesn't look at us that way. The federal government doesn't look at us that way.
IRS does.
They might, but that doesn't hold water in statute.
They may not, but I think that, we're getting off track, but I think that I would offer to and say, if you want to sign it, sign it. If you don't, you don't. But I mean, you can always say, do what Brett did. I think Brett and Sean didn't sign it for whatever reason. And they had a point of being the elected official, but in most cases, people are just going to read it, sign it, and put it to bed. Do you have something?
Just a thought. I mean, I think probably would be the best bet is just to hand the policies to the elected official and just acknowledge that they received the policies. They may not agree with the policies, but when they come aboard, that they received all policies.
And maybe that's it. Maybe I acknowledge
the
that I
handbook.
received it.
Yeah.
I'm not acknowledging I'm abiding by it, but I'm acknowledging that I received it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel strongly that the last sentence, we need to strike that. Because it just doesn't say, so we need to strike that, but I am in favor of putting, elected officials are expected to abide by the code of ethics and our social media policy. I don't think we should put in there, we can't do anything, even if you don't. I just think that we should set the expectation that if you're elected by all people, or the majority of them, that you should be held to a higher
So
standard.
maybe that's the sentence that all elected officials will be given a copy of the code of ethics and social media policy and expected to adhere to those.
Yeah, I feel strongly that that needs to be
That's
in
it.
there. Whether or not we can hold anybody accountable with action is irrelevant.
I actually like the statement that letting them know that we know they can't be disciplined, but if we kept in the elected officials, although unable to be disciplined, and put in something like, we would hope that you would abide by these policies or
I
something
think
like
that's
that.
too soft. Hoping
But I don't,
that
you can't be
somebody
any
that's
firmer than that.
serving the people is
You-
going to abide by.
You can't, but unless it's somebody like you who knows statutes, some elected officials don't know they can't be disciplined, right?
But we should,
I don't think we
I'm
need
not
to
saying
call
you-
that out in a
But
policy,
but
though.
I'm just saying that we just eliminate that and just say that they're given a copy of the code of ethics and the social media policy and they're expected to.
I don't think you can
Okay.
say expect, I don't know, I wouldn't sign that. Honestly, personally, I wouldn't assign that says I'm expected to. I would sign something that says I acknowledge that I received these, but I wouldn't sign you, because you can't force me to sign it. Technically, I wouldn't sign something that says you're expecting me to follow all those rules if I don't agree with 100% of them. I'm not saying
I know that you're
depending on
not,
what they
but
are.
therein lies the problem with our country right now.
Well, it depends
That
on how you
people
look at it.
Don't think that they're expected to. So listen, I don't know if we're going to settle that tonight. I don't think that we should put in there. So clearly you can be called out in a Board of Selectmen meeting. Like clearly that is the forum.
And that's what we
If you
did.
have a complaint
And
that,
and that last.
and it
we
was
did.
followed through with that. I don't necessarily, because I do think that the wording of that is funny. Like, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to have them
Let me come up with a.
publicly shamed, but
No, let me come up with a sentence that I think we can agree to.
Yeah.
And if not, we can tweak it out the next time we're all together. And let me get rid of number 3, because I don't think it belongs on here, which is the religious one. And then if we agree that the percentage I came up with or slightly tweaked by you two at the next time we get together, why don't we just adopt this? So we have 3 policies. I think there's the one that you mentioned, Brett, where we got to keep our social media and other groups like the rec commission in line. The code of ethics is the code of ethics. And the social media policy would be, this one's geared more towards freelancing on other sites.
Yeah.
So-
The only other one that
Go ahead.
I would recommend maybe thinking about taking out is number 2. Content that is deemed to not be in the best interest of the town.
I mean, I do think
Who's
that,
deeming that?
I do think that that is a little bit vague. I don't
Yeah.
disagree.
I think
Okay.
the other ones are pretty self-explanatory,
Yeah.
but that one is like,
So 2
okay,
and 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify, your proposed is to replace this 3-page?
No.
It's in addition to?
Yeah,
Because
mine-
this is labeled the Town of North Stonington Social Media Policy, and this is the social media
I
policy.
want to
So,
change the name of one of them because unless I change this to social media policy on non-town sites.
but it's not, because you are saying town officials should refrain from posting to the town's website or non-town sponsored social media pages. So it's actually including.
But I
Under
can get rid of the town website part and just use the other, gear this towards sites that are not town sites.
I think it does address 2 separate issues. One addresses what, I don't know if you just make an addendum, but one addresses how the town sites should run really. And the other one addresses
So maybe this would be page 4. I clean up that. and-
right, I would add it as an
I
addendum
would,
to,
so that's a good idea. I would vote for that. Okay. And we'll work on that last sentence.
and maybe that's social media, like behavior, I don't know, addendum, whatever it might be.
Addendum on non-towns, social media policy regarding non-town sites or
Right.
something like that. Okay, I'll come up with something for that, and we can talk about it the next time we meet.
Is there anything, and I would need to read word for word on the 3-page document, but is there anything that prevents an administrator, right? Because they're administrators of a site, right? Because somebody sent me the names of the people that monitor the unfiltered page. Is there anything that prevents somebody from creating an offshoot of what appears to be a town page?
So technically there's not, other than, so you can't use the town seal on a site or anywhere without the authorization of the town clerk.
Actually,
Right.
we just reported that to Instagram, by the
Yeah.
way.
Oh, good.
Because there is a site out there that has a town seal. I don't know how they got it. I don't even know who the administrator is. But Jim reported it to Instagram saying, "I want this removed." They have not had the ability to use this.
But so I think part of the problem with this is I think every town site should be held somewhat by the municipality, right? So I can tell you with the EDC page, right? I started that before the town even had a North Stonington town page. So that was started not through a town account, but I think since then, any town committee should be started by our IT group or whoever's running those things.
Well, if you
And be
read the
part of the
policy,
town
you're
page.
right. There is oversight by
Right.
the town and the IT manager.
Right, but
in those.
we haven't pulled that all
Yeah.
back. But remember, we had sites that started well before the town jumped on it.
So I guess we can look and see who operates the site now and have a meeting with them and kind of pull that back.
Yeah.
And of course, if regionally, that'd be a whole different site, right?
Right.
So, okay. Anything else for social media tonight or?
No, I thank you for bringing that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Is there any comments by anyone on that? Okay. Hearing none. Old business, just to let you know, Daryl's last day was last Thursday.
Oh.
He's in a good place. He was a little antsy a couple of days before then, but the actual day, the last day, we got him to clean out his office, which took quite a while because 23 years of collecting. We use the word collecting. It's a good thing for him. I mean, he's been at it for 23 years with us and probably close to 50 years when you count Montville and Groton and all the other places he worked. We have a gentleman named Chandler Rosa comes in just on Fridays. He works out of London. He used to do 1 day a week in Browntown. He is a guy that everyone knows. I talked to the assessor in Stonington about him. Everyone glows about how he's so nice to work with. He knows assessing like the back of his hand. He's going to just assess what he thinks we're lacking. I don't believe that is a full-time position. So he's going to come in on Fridays from now, and already he and Cecile kind of hit it off. Cecile was very frustrated over the last year and a half. And then we have a gentleman named Kevin Johnson, who just before the end of the fiscal year, we were going out and doing some assessments for us on new construction assessments. And Darryl used to do that in the morning sometimes and then do his paperwork in the afternoon, but we got way behind in that. So Kevin did that. He does it on Saturdays. He takes the town car. He's got a badge. We pay him a stipend to do it. And he drives and we give him a list. He goes around, assesses it, comes back, puts everything in the box for the assessor. So then Cecile sees it on Monday morning. So these two pieces right now are working. And I do have a meeting with my local group of CEOs in early September, which is Valentine, Preston, Sterling, as well us. And we will be talking about assessors and is there a way we can share an assessor? Is there a way we can, if I have a full-time clerk, I don't think we need a full-time assessor. And if we can share one with, we'll say Valentine or Griswold, somebody. I know Preston had a 1 day a week assessor. They were getting out of Ledyard. And because of their budget concerns, they just cut that person back to a half a day, which we have a lot more going on maybe than Preston does. But even with that said, if they were getting away with a 1 day and Valentine was getting away with a 1 day, do we really need a 5 day? Not when we have a full-time clerk. So that's what Chandler's assessing. Again, he's been in this business for a long time. Again, all the assessors know each other. And if you know any assessor from another town, mention Chandler Rose and they'll talk to all of them later about him. I think he works is it Wyndham? And then Wyndham in Chaplain. He used to do Valentine.
Yeah.
And that,
And he was the trainer for the Assessor Association, for all the
Oh,
courses at
nice.
UConn. He trained the assessors.
and we've talked
Nice.
about this for, like I said, at the last meeting for a long time of what that role should look like. Now now that we're using some helpers or some contractors, should we be voting on that as a board to okay the use of those? Because it's not an everyday decision, right? We're paying money for this. And the reason I said is when the Board of Finance kind of came after us for some things that we expended funds on that weren't technically budgeted. Now I know it comes out of the assessor's line item, but I think we might be better off and you'd have more support when that time comes that we as a board voted to spend up to this dollar value for these for now or for this period of time. I think I think it's a safer look.
So I guess I do disagree. I guess I don't disagree. I disagree. And on a day-to-day part-time solution, I think we should, myself and the administrative assistant should have the ability to fill a gap now, to fill a gap knowing this isn't a long-term solution. However, if we are going towards what is the long-term solution and how are we going to get there? What are we going to pay? What does it look like? Then by all means, I think the board as a whole should be involved in what is the long-term solution for, just like we did IT. What's the long-term solution for the same thing in terms of the assessors? What is it going to look like? I agree wholeheartedly, Brett, on that. But I think in a day-to-day operation, we're just trying to fill a gap and a guy coming in on Saturdays, a guy coming in on Fridays. I don't know if that's something that we want to call the board together every time we have something like that.
But it's not a one-time deal. So it's like a weekly. I do as a taxpayer too, not knowing that something wasn't in our budget for an outside entity to do.
But
that would,
I think the expectation is we're staying within the line item
Exactly.
of the tax
If we were
assessor's
going-
salary.
If we're going to go well over, then we would have to get
100%. So, I mean,
so
that
where do
would
you
be,
draw the line of extra help without input from the board that oversees that budget?
So when
but
you-
it hasn't really been extra help because there's been huge gaps in,
Well, it was. So we
So-
hired an outside assessor, right? During a transitional time that we didn't ever talk about, but it was out
Who
there.
do we do?
The person that went out to assess
Inspection.
properties,
Oh, that was.
well, we had staff, right? So
Right.
I worry about the looks of it because usually what I've seen in other municipalities, when you are outsourcing something or you're paying for something, your board of selectmen as a whole discuss those
If you're
things.
going to exceed the budget, I agree with you. But we weren't exceeding the budget because there was plenty of money left in the assessor's line when we did that. And it was Nichols and Nonable were paying that guy to go out and do that on Saturdays.
I'm not gonna argue the
Yeah.
point. I just think when we're going outside the norm and it's coming out of a budget, we should at least discuss in.
So I agree, if we're going to exceed the budget, I shouldn't be able to exceed the budget without getting input from you
You
guys.
can't leave, because
Right.
then you're liable.
So if I have this brainstorm, we're gonna do this, I would not do that without talking to you first. But if we're gonna be well within the budget, and if you look at the last year, the assessors budget, we really didn't go over.
Yeah.
So I think as long as I'm not knowingly exceeding the budget, knowing we're gonna be underneath, we're just doing a stopgap till we get to where we need to be. And part of Chandler's time with us is assessing what he thinks we need as a town, which he's done in other towns. He told Valentine we only need 1 day a week. And we have a part-time assessor for 1 day a week. So I agree with you on the long-term solution, but I don't think I agree with you on the day-to-day, short-term plugging the whole solution.
I
Because
just think it, to me, gives you backup for when another department or the Board of Finance, like they did on some other things a few weeks ago, asked, hey, about this position or these extra
what did they
funds.
question us on?
It was one of the positions and I don't recall exactly what it was.
Did we run over budget?
No, we didn't go over budget. That it was a different plan than what was talked about.
so, I mean, at what point do you, I mean, we are very blessed, right? Because we trust each other and we work really well together, but possibly in a different, with different people that I might
Yeah.
feel more
And that's it. Maybe I
strongly.
worry about setting a precedent that
Yeah,
isn't.
I just don't know where do you cut off and I know the term micromanaging is a harsher term than I think that you're suggesting. I think there's nothing wrong with bringing it up in Board of Selectmen meetings that, hey, we've had a gap because of whatever reasons. Here's what we're doing. Just want to let you know, we're going to be discussing in the future how we handle this entire role. I don't know, where do you draw the line as far as how much we have to discuss and vote on that ties their hands in?
I mean, some
every day.
municipalities vote on everything.
Yeah.
That's not a day-to-day fun, like a change in the day-to-day operation of the town is voted on. So it's all dependent
Yeah.
on the board at the time, I guess.
I mean, I know that we've talked about it here. I know
Yeah.
that, and again,
And
the
if there's no
expectation is-
financial, if you don't think there's any financial impact down the road,
Yeah,
then that's good to know. But for me, I don't know that because I don't know what the numbers are.
Well, the impact will probably be a large reduction in the salary for that office if we kept with this routine we're doing now, because what we're paying Chandler for that, by the way, he comes in all day on Friday, we pay him for that, but he's accessible Monday through Thursday. Cecile can email, like she's so cute, she comes in and says, if I send an email, like, Anthony, am I gonna charge for that? I said, no, Cecile, this isn't an attorney, we're not paying by every 15
By every
minutes.
email.
So you can email him, you can call him, if you got a question, he'll answer it. If he calls you, you can pick up the
And
phone.
so
But
at
at the
some
same time,
point-
you don't want to take advantage, right? So
Yeah.
you want to be getting paid for his time if he's acting as a
He's
consultant.
comfortable with how he's doing, because this isn't his first town he's
Okay.
done this for, so he knows, and Cecile's not one that's gonna call him 5 times a day, so.
and so at some point, he will be the one that gives us kind of an assessment of what we think we're going to need moving forward.
Whatever he gives us as an idea, if this was my town, this is what I would do as far as your assessor's office, this is the amount of business you do, this is what you have a full-time clerk, this is what I think you need, then I bring that to the Board of Selectmen,
Okay.
and we make a decision on where do we want to go, using this information, where do we want to go down the road.
So what do we think the time frame is on some of that info?
I expect within a month, if not sooner, that he can assess, our grand list,
No
what,
pun intended.
exactly, what is needed for that department.
And Cecile's doing well. Things are
She's
great.
doing very well now that they've
Okay.
actually met and worked together for a day, and she's comfortable.
Oh, good.
She got so much done last Friday that it was, she was amazing.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on that? If not, we can open up for public comment. Any public comment? Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for August 19th, but I will be out of town, out of country, gone.
Do we want to, Brett, do you want to?
Not zooming in from the
He's
beach,
not
no.
zooming.
I'm not even sure what the time difference is, to be honest with you.
Hey, I zoomed in for a town meeting when I was in Italy.
That would be
Just so
you.
know.
Do you want to wait?
I
to
think we should just
decide?
wait to cancel and make
I'm-
sure
I'm
nothing
okay waiting
comes up
for a
that we
little bit.
need because
Yeah.
it's regularly scheduled. We can cancel it a few
We'll
days
leave it
prior.
So if we come to our next meeting, which will be the first Tuesday in September, whichever, whatever, I think it's probably the day after Labor Day. I can have all the things we talked about tonight, I can have ready to go for that meeting. So I can probably we can put a bow on the social media policy. We can continue discussions on social services and recreation and whatever else might come up between now and then.
I would like on that meeting, and I know I mentioned this, but to look at our highway foreman's role and what the new added tasks are now that he's taking over the high school and how that plays into it.
And I agree, and thank you for that. Yeah, his anniversary is coming up is it October?
November.
I would like to, he is doing well. We just had a wonderful meeting with the school as far as maintenance. That was last week. Steph was there. And we think we're in a pretty good place as a start. We think this is a 3-year program to find out what the town's going to do, what the school's going to do, what's our responsibility, what's theirs, and it's a work in progress. But I think going into year 1, we've got a pretty solid idea, and Alan and Randy seem to have a good relationship as far as not stepping on each other's toes and getting the job done and getting it done at a reasonable price, not at, don't take the first quarter home with it, So there's a lot of things we can do in-house over there that like we recently have done and saved a lot of money by doing in-house. This whole water wheel thing is fantastic. It's funny how we were thinking of buying, maybe we're going to do a second one, And Phil came to my office the other day and Phil watches numbers, more than Alan. He goes, hey, I saw I can get, one of those water wheels was like $800 and it's got a pot that's only like $150 and I can get that thing for a portion of what we, I go, oh. Right, so you got your eyes open. So I think the town's gonna be more conscientious of how we spend that money and the fact that it's our building, so we want to take care of our building so it lasts longer versus what happened to the buildings that were here before. So I think I agree with you that that we should talk about the highway foreman, his added responsibility and compensating him correctly for that responsibility. We are very lucky right now to have the foreman and the crew we have.
I agree 100%.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so our next meeting will be in September, whatever that date is after Labor Day.
Well, we're gonna keep the 18th, the 19th on for right now.
You are?
And then just in case
Yeah, and
something,
something else happens, we might cancel.
do you not trust?
Or we might do it and just change a lot of stuff while you're gone.
So, okay, so we're gonna leave the meeting on the 19th and then.
We're gonna leave it on. We very well may
So here's
cancel
the
it.
thing, if you do cancel it, just have to let Antoinette know
Yeah.
48 hours in advance.
Yeah.
Cancel it more than
You'll
40
reach
days.
out to us. Yeah, okay. We're good. We'll be all right. We won't run the town into the ground
Okay.
while you're gone for 1 week.
Okay,
I love that it makes.
Well, at least
I
I
almost want to
won't.
have the meeting because it's vacant. So
so, yeah, I've been calling you on anything and go, what happened? All right, anything else?
No, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
At 7:54. Although, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.